Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special full house, might I add, episode of the Jerich Show. Today, we are gazing into our crystal balls and looking into the future. What does the future hold? All this and more coming up on this week's Jerich Show.
Welcome to the Jerich Show, featuring your hosts, Javvad and Erich and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
And alongside me, as always, someone that has a great deal of experience in gazing into balls, Mr. Eric Krohn. How are you doing, sir?
This is how we're going to do this today, huh? I see how we're going to do this.
We're looking to the future.
We're looking to the future. Okay, yes. We every year we kind of come up with our predictions, and this year is no different. Although we do have this pandemic thing kind of running over us, and most of the time our predictions between me and you and I's predictions are pretty noticeable, right? Like I think one of mine was the Russians will continue to be at it. Right.
I think you were bang on the money
whoa,
for that one.
Right. But the good news is we actually have some people on the show this week that are much smarter than either you or I think, and they have some real predictions to speak about, I think.
Yes. Who do you think is waiting in the green room first? Who shall we bring on first to share their wisdom, their knowledge?
I'd have to say that the GQ guy who's 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that ahead of us now. It's probably his nighttime. He'd probably like to get this done with and get to bed. We only paid him for 25 minutes, so whatever it takes.
Right. It's expensive. It's Mr. Jelle Wieringa from the Netherlands.
Yes, the clock is ticking, just so you know.
Yeah.
I don't do overtime.
He's like an attorney. He runs billable hours, billable minutes the whole time we're on.
We can do chit chat, but that's very expensive. But no.
It's great to have you on the show, Jelle. I mean,
Thanks,
you've been with the team for a couple years now. You're doing fantastic things over there in the Netherlands. I got to say, every time we're on with you, talking with you, things like that, it just reminds me of how brilliant our team really is. And you are no exception. The things that you do with the executive suites and just the strategic thinking that you do always just amazes me, honestly. So now that we've built you up a little bit, we're gonna go into some other things. Javvad, before he starts showering us with his wisdom, is there anything you would like to say as well?
So Jelle is not only an incredibly obviously young and good-looking person, a member of the team. He speaks more languages than I even know how to pronounce. And although Jelle's based in the Netherlands, he covers a massive territory across Europe and even the Middle East. So he does have a ton of real global experience and speaks to people from around the world on a regular basis. Unlike you, Eric, he knows there is a world outside of the US. He does have a passport that has got stamps on it from other countries. So with that, I suppose over to Jelle. Looking forward, is there anything that you predict coming down the pipeline?
I do. And it was kind of tough to pick a good prediction this year because we've all been locked up at home and that really makes our world a little smaller. So yes, I have a lot of stamps in my passport, but not from last year, unfortunately. But what I predict is with the technology advances that we now see in AI, I predict that the next layer of attack will be where they include traditional phishing attacks and traditional social engineering attacks and include deepfakes in it. We'll see the first real life deepfake attacks next year. It's just too easy. The technology's there. You can download it yourself. Everybody can do it. You just need a powerful computer nowadays. That's it. Bit of time. So it's just too enticing for cybercriminals not to use it, not to leverage it.
That's right. So you mean attacks like this?
It's raining
I'm not going to play any more in case we get a copyright takedown notice.
Yeah, like that one.
That would be scary.
Yeah, it can be very scary, can't it? Whoa.
Deep fakes, it's something that I've messed around with for the last couple years. And it's what's amazed me about it is, it's been out there, like you said, but it hasn't been ready for prime time yet. But I'm with you. I think that's changing. They've really been working hard on this stuff. And not only the video stuff, but the real-time voice fakers, things like that are going to be great for, let's say, business email compromise, like wire transfer frauds. Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to see that.
Yeah, and since the FBI in March of this year already announced that there's going to be like the next form of BEC is BIC, business identity compromise, which is basically BEC on steroids, where they combine the traditional business email compromise attack with deepfakes in audio or in video form, and it's just a matter of time. I'm fairly certain next year we'll see this type of attack pop up, and it's going to be very interesting to see how we are going to actually defend against it. That's going to be hard to do. So yeah, I'm just we're even worried to a certain degree.
Oh, worried.
There's been a couple of things where they've actually come out and said, "Oh, this was a deep fake attack," but nobody's ever been able to prove that on those, right? It's all kind of speculation. Somebody doesn't want to get in trouble for the fact that maybe they just transferred out, a whole lot of money going, no, really, it was the CEO's voice. It must be a deep fake. But I think you're right. I think the real stuff is coming.
I do think so too. And a lot of people still don't know about deepfakes at all. So it's definitely an opportunity for all of us to enlighten the audience and to make sure that people are trained to recognize, because you can still recognize most deepfakes if they're not done properly. So there's hope, but those things are getting nasty.
They are. I think there's two. And there's the first element for now. They are recognizable if you know what to look out for. I think they will get better, like the deepfake technology. And at that time, I think it also becomes equally important for organizations to look at their processes. So if you shouldn't be able to authorize a massive £1 million transfer just for someone phoning you up, even if it is a CEO. So,
but there's good things about deepfakes too, guys, because finally we can look good during our webinars, right? We can use it positively. We can definitely.
Says GQ over here.
Look like Tom Cruise doing a webinar.
Yeah. Tom Cruise is going to be using your face for a deep fake, Jelle. Come on, man.
No. Don't think so.
Awesome.
Well, guys,
awesome.
In any case,
thank you very much for that. So thanks for joining us and enlightening us with your wisdom. So we won't make that
wasn't
awkward.
Awkward at all.
That wasn't awkward at all.
Not an awkward.
Okay, let's bring on, speaking of awkward, let's bring on the most awkward man in cybersecurity today, the man who isn't afraid of sharing his opinion, no matter how wrong he might be, the man who actually, I am probably the most honored to call a colleague. I've learned so much from him in the short time that we've worked together. And it's like, despite everything Eric told me about you before I joined, he's completely wrong. You are a fantastic gentleman, a scholar.
All I'm going to say is I live a half a mile from Eric, and he's never come to my house, never told me his address. So that's what can be said about that relationship.
Yeah. And Eric actually bragged to me he lives not too far from Carol Baskin's, and he normally sees her when he's out for a walk.
That's not totally untrue. Actually, we're about 5 miles from her place there. Just saying. So Roger, you're pretty close too, man. We're not too far from that. But I blame it on COVID. It's been COVID. It's been it's been those sorts of things. I think we're going over next week though. We're going to raid your house next week. I think you've got that long-term kitchen rebuild that you're finally wrapping up, and I didn't want to see it partway through. I didn't want it to cloud my judgment for the end product.
Yeah, we just celebrated the anniversary of the kitchen renovation. So my prediction is the prediction I'm going to share with you all today is my personal kitchen reno is not going to be done this year, or the next year. But
yeah, it's only been a year so far. And how long was that slated to take?
They were contractually obligated to finish it in 7 weeks.
Gotcha. So,
but predictions are famously hard to make, right? Like literally, I would say, and I've been doing predictions for like 25 years. And if you nail one or two in a year, you've done a really good job. They're so tough to get right. So my prediction is going to be that hacking and malware will continue next year. I wanted to be right for once.
That's less of a prediction and more like an ongoing trend. It's a bit like saying people will continue to breathe oxygen.
Now, do you expect it to change? Do you expect it to be like different tactics, or you think they're just going to do more of the same?
Yeah, I mean, it really, if you look at it, the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and it's nothing radical. It's evolution. And with that, what I think is going to happen is that the ransomware gangs, as bad as they are, I think they had kind of the height of great ransomware was this year, where they're stealing the most, doing the most. But now, because they cause so much pain, you actually have governments and politicians and groups coming together, and Bitcoin, being avenues being shut down, exchanges being pressured. They're telling the U.S. government, for example, is telling different exchanges that if you launder this ransomware money, we're not going to allow you to do the other billions of legal money that you do. So they're putting these constraints. There seems to be a slowdown, but I think that's going to also cause the ransomware groups to then branch out. And I think we're already seeing it, where they're branching out and doing just strict denial of service attacks, doing like we have some used to be that the ransomware guys would buy login names and passwords from what's called access brokers. Now the ransomware guys are becoming the access brokers. And we're seeing them do different things, more cryptocurrency mining. So they'll break into a company, do cryptocurrency mining before they set off other things. So I think the writing's kind of on the wall, is that they're starting to realize, hey, we've got this access. And the least we can do is do ransomware or even exfiltration of data. We can do anything. So my future prediction is that they're going to start to maximize the revenue streams. And when they break in, they're going to start to go, okay, how can I abuse this potential victim? What can I do? And let me do this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and then do the ransomware, right? So, and I think they're going to sell the information, that they're going to steal medical information and sell that to unscrupulous companies that want that information. They're going to, they right now they'll say, hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to take these credentials we've stolen and give them to other people. And they don't. I think they are going to just start selling them, right? They're going to be like the spam houses and access brokers. They're going to do denial of service attacks. They're going to do crypto mining. They're going to individually attack different people. Like, imagine the treasure trove of money you have if you can attack the C-level executives individually before you then take down the company. So I could attack the CEO at home and go, hey, I steal money from his stock accounts, from his bank accounts. I could go by just infiltrating and stealing money from all these C-level people, then attack the company. They wouldn't know that they were related, maybe. So that's what my prediction is, that they're going to look at every victim as a, what can I take out of this cow? And how can I do it in such a way that I don't stop the larger, like I'm going to build my revenue stream? That they're literally going to become these optimization engines of, okay, we've got this thing. How can we extract the most value instead of this one-time deal?
That's interesting. We've seen some stuff already with like when Samsung got hit not too long ago. I think it was post QBot infection. So we're seeing some of this stuff work together already in some of those ways. They said that they think, okay, so they got hit with QBot. They didn't get everything out. QBot sold access to some sort of a broker that then turned around and got in. But I've also heard some rumors that like you said, the ransomware gangs are actually acting the other way around, where instead of using them, now they're letting these other botnets and things like that take over some of the networks that they're into. So that's a very interesting one, and one we're going to want to keep an eye on, because it seems like every time we start to get ahead just a little bit, the whack-a-mole thing happens, right? So it gets up a little bit, they come back and they counter with something that blows our mind, like what happened with Maze and data exfiltration, right? With the ransomware went nuclear thing. We got much better at backups, and they said, yeah, let's change that up a little bit. And here we are fighting through this one now.
Yeah. I'd just like to give a shout out to Roger's written 13 books so far. The joke is that in between like things, when he's bored, in one afternoon, Roger will write a book. His most latest one is a ransomware protection playbook. That's a really relevant recent good. There's Cryptography Apocalypse, which, if you're into quantum cryptography and if you are a nerd, then by all means read that.
That's pretty appropriate, though. Yeah.
My favorite book is A Data-Driven Computer Defense. That is an absolute fantastic book, and it's something I recommend everyone. But the Hacking Multi-Factor Authentication is also one of his recent ones. But I won't turn this into a promotional session for Roger. All I'm saying is Roger really knows his stuff. So he's written many good books. I would encourage you to go to your favorite bookstore and pick up some. And if you mention the Jerich Show, then Roger will fly to your house and he will personally autograph the book for you. That's guaranteed.
Thank you for that. Checks in the mail. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me just say again, I think.
Okay. We ran out of time with Roger. So yeah, he doesn't realize he's still talking away in the green room. But that's how we roll here on the Jerich Show.
It's nice that it wasn't me for once.
I know, we don't hang around for no one. And next up is Anna Collard from all the way from South Africa. Cyber 2021 Woman of the Year award winner, I believe.
Yeah.
If I got that one right.
I hope you can see me all right. I'm sorry, I have to do this from the car.
We can see you just fine.
Yeah,
okay, good.
That's all good.
I can't believe that you just did that to Roger. Oh my god.
Nothing is off limits here at the Jerich Show. We will blame it on a technical fault. It goes along with our poorly presented part of things. Yeah.
No, we won't. When you're doing live TV, everything's got to be done to a time limit. We unfortunately have to stick to that. So before you spend any longer feeling sorry for Roger, let's jump into it.
So what was your prediction this year, Anna? What is the key thing that you think is going to happen in 2022?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with everything that Roger and Jelle have said. From an African point of view, I mean, obviously, being there at the tip of it, we are quite concerned because, yes, it's true that the sort of, developed nations fighting back, America, the UK, but we don't have those kind of resources here. And that means that we expect, unfortunately, it's a bit of a negative, but we do expect to see more attacks against emerging economies. That includes South Africa, where we have quite a high cyber dependency in multiple sectors. And unfortunately, that means probably more public sector attacks. We've just recently done a survey across South African organizations and how prepared they are for the extortion crime. It's not actually ransomware, right? I mean, as Roger said, it's all sorts of extortion, whether that's DDoS attacks or stealing credentials, information. And unfortunately, the financial services industry is sort of, they're like 70% prepared, which is okay-ish, I guess. But then the public sector, which includes government and education, only 30% of them admitted that they're prepared for this kind of threat. They admitted that out of the organizations in South Africa that have paid ransomware before, 4% of them, by the way, that were hit have paid. It's just like from a business case point of view, I mean, if I was a criminal, it's a better return than any direct marketing business is 4% hit rate. So we are worried from an African point of view that we'll see more sort of focus on, which so far hasn't really happened. Like, they go where the money is. So it's obviously most of the attacks are happening in the US, and I think France, Germany, Canada are sort of the most attacked countries because that's where you have to find the strongest economies. But with them, as you said, or as Roger said, sort of stepping up their game, preparing, going after them as sort of nation state enemies, we'll see them shifting their attention towards us. The other problem that we see from a misinformation that goes with what Jelle mentioned, the use of deepfake technology from a societal point of view and sort of political unrest, it's something to be very concerned about. Again, in South Africa, where we have a lot of sort of misinformation happening already. Now, if we consider that a lot of the people here use WhatsApp as a communication tool, or Telegram, etc. And all these political parties meet each other on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and their secret conversations, it's quite easy for them to be leaked and then be sent out without context via WhatsApp. People just forward the stuff. Now imagine if you bring in some deepfake technology that, incites racism and other sorts of really bad vibes. That's something we are very concerned about, and unfortunately sort of prediction is such a stupid word, but something that we are worried about coming down the line.
That's quite scary. I think when oftentimes when we work in security, you just think about the data and you think about numbers, and you don't often think about the impact it has on real people and real lives. And I think when you frame things like that, it should give everyone a time to pause and think about the actual impact that these things have.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Did you say a 4% payout rate for ransomware? I'll be honest, compared to some of the stuff I've been seeing lately, that's actually pretty good that you're not paying out that much. One of the recent groups that I saw over here, they had out 73 million in demands and had received 44 million in payments already of that 73 million in demands. I mean, that's a huge percentage that we're paying out. I mean, I think it depends on the group and the gang and what they're focusing on and what data and information they have. But even so, as a business owner, it's a very daunting thing when you get hit with ransomware. Like I've seen a lot of smaller businesses here. There was a yacht dealership here in Tampa that I know some people at. They got hit and they were kind of like, what do we do? A lot of these folks end up having to pay out because they're just not prepared for that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it's interesting times with that. But I actually thought that was pretty good that you only 4% payout. I kind of wish we had that more around here.
I think, Eric, it's probably the data. We just did a survey, and then maybe some people consider a ransomware attack if they receive a phishing email and block it. So I think it always depends on how you sort of, define it. Unfortunately, always with these kind of stats, have to be taken with a pinch of salt.
No, I think you're right. It's having that context matters a lot, and how people define it, and whether it's successful or not, and whether it was just a data level, no exfiltration took place, and it was just encrypted so they could recover from backups and what have you. I also think, like, speaking of context, Eric's example of, like, I know some friends and we were there all down a yacht club and they got hacked, I think tells you everything you need to know about Eric and the circles he travels in. So
I am not part of that. I do not have a yacht. I just happen to know someone that works in sales there. Okay. Jeez, man.
The other thing I just wanted to say, the reason why I'm in the car is because I'm actually having a meetup with some of my old security engineering friends, and one of them actually now works for Palo Alto in the States and flew in this morning. They're all having beers already on the street. That's where I am. And like we were chatting before I came on, and something that was interesting, we also just launched a survey yesterday on if we had to hire junior skills, what are the skills you're looking for? And one of the guys that that was on the table, they all did the survey, and he said, unfortunately he's a manager now, he doesn't have enough time, but if he could, he would definitely go into the cloud sphere, and I don't know, AWS, Azure, etc. And when I looked at the data that we received so far, and it's about 50 respondents so far, and cloud security is by far the number one skill that's needed. So that I find really interesting. So that, that talks to, obviously, cloud is the thing. I mean, not that it's not a new thing, but it definitely is a movement. It doesn't matter which industries, but there's a massive skill shortage in that area, and companies need skills. So if you're young and you're sort of wondering, or not just if you're young, I mean, if you have the time to do a career change, do a security AWS architect or whatever other certification is out there, because that's definitely where you are most wanted.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. So are you going to head off now and get some beers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. We won't hold you on for too long then. So now on to our final, last but not least, a man who isn't a cloud expert, but his head is often in the clouds. It's Mr. James McQuiggan.
He's still trying to figure out what this ransomware thing is. I see. You know
Well-
what he's doing? He's trying to get Roger to sign this now. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to pretend like it's good. You know, it took me like 6 months to get Roger to sign a book for me. And I sat in the same queue, but like the same office as him. I don't know. I don't know what you're up to, pal, but I hope it works better for you than me.
Well,
This
he
is-
signed every one of my books so far, and because of the pandemic, I haven't had a chance to get down to see him. So he will be signing this one for me next week, hopefully. So
My heart's broken. Jeez. Okay. All right. Well, James,
You need
friend of
no
the show.
introduction.
So I'm glad
Yeah.
you saved the worst for last or the least for last, right? You know, I figured that's the method. You brought on all the great folks that took all the good predictions, and what do I get left with? I'll tell
The
you what I
real-
get left with.
yeah, tell us. Go ahead.
Essentially, you know, we've heard about ransomware, we've heard about deepfakes, social engineering, we've heard again from ransomware. Now we're just from Anna there, we're hearing about, you know, secure cloud. Everybody's moving into the cloud, and we need more security people. Well, that's kind of where the top skill is. You know, it's interesting. I kind of wrote an article at the beginning of November when we were all starting our predictions and the predictions season kicked off. And one of the interesting things I found was what we're predicting for next year is exactly what we predicted 10 years ago. And so it kind of, you know, it leads me to believe that when it comes to predictions, either we're predicting the same things because stuff isn't changing. We're still running into the same issues. Now, granted, I'll give you ransomware. We weren't dealing with it on the level that we were 10 years ago. But with regards to cloud security, we were still dealing with organizations getting hit in cloud with cloud systems. We were still having social engineering, phishing attacks. We were, you know, industrial control systems were constantly being attacked and targeted, and cyber criminals trying to get in, because all I got to do is say Stuxnet, right? And there we go. But 10 years later, we're still fighting the same battles. And so what kind of, I'm always curious about what kind of progress we're making with that one. With regards to all these different attacks. I have a feeling this is a generational fix. This isn't something we're going to be able to fix. We're constantly putting band-aids, and we're constantly working to try and get things improved. But year after year, we're still making the same predictions, and we're just not it doesn't seem that we're making a lot of headway. So I just want to let you know that the role of Javvad Malik is being played by me right now, because I'm playing the cynic with regards to all of this when it comes to predictions.
Yeah, what a depressing prediction thing that you're putting out there. I mean,
So here's my thing about predictions. I hate them. I can't stand predictions, but I get it. It's good for us to be able to talk so we can keep bringing it all up. But it's like, where are we going? What are we getting all of these fixed? Is it a slow fix and it'll happen over time? Or, you know, is it something that we're actually going to be able to, you know, put something out of its misery in the next year?
so I'm going to have to kind of disagree with you a little bit on this, because I think
No,
we
it's fine.
are fixing things. I think we are fixing things, but then it escalates. Like I mentioned before, it's like a whack-a-mole. I mean, if you look back at where we were 2017, right? Ransomware was top of the game back then. I mean, like as far as the number of strains that came out and different things, we saw WannaCry hit, you know. WannaCry, I think the top ransom for WannaCry was like $600 for a machine, right? That's how much things have changed just in the last few years.
Right.
Now we've gotten better. We improved on how we did backups, and the game changed then again. We're always going to be playing with new ways to commit crime. And this goes in regular crime as well as cyber crime as well, right? Like the beat cops have been fighting people beating up each other since the 1920s and 30s, and yet they're still doing it these days. That doesn't mean that we haven't progressed in how we deal with that. It just means that it's going to be an ongoing thing. You know, robbing banks back then was very different than robbing banks now sometimes.
If we do hear stories about bank robberies, and you do hear them, but the level of improvements in the culture in those environments has changed. I mean, I remember when I worked in the bank many years ago, working as a bank teller. They train you so that if the robber says don't put in the die pack, don't put in the die pack. It's only money. Your life isn't worth losing over a die pack. But if you can put the die pack in there, so they run you through that training, and that's what we need to start having more within the organizations, is getting more of that training and increasing that security culture within all the organizations, not just in the IT, and making everybody do the 30-minute or an hour long training. It's got to be a shift in culture, and it's got to change with everybody, because everybody's got, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have those bad habits. That's why we're still seeing folks hitting those, falling for those social engineering attacks. We've got to get that out there and get people to change those bad habits and shift. It's kind of like, New Year's Eve comes around every year, and we're constantly making new resolutions. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to eat better. And, I'm not going to go out as much. And, by January 16th, you're at the nightclub eating McDonald's and, drinking a six-pack. So.
Yeah. You're calling out Eric really badly here. He's getting seen. So
hey, March is the best year of the month to buy like fitness equipment used. I'm just saying.
That's his business on the side. He flips them. He buys them in March and sells them in November, December time, and that's it.
Right. Kind of like your weight bench. I don't see it in the frame anymore, Javvad. Was the laundry hanging off of it, getting in the way of the shot?
No, the tree's covering it now.
Thank you, James. Stick around. So one thing that we have in the prediction, before we move on to ours, Eric, and then we'll bring everyone back for a bit. And there is what I call the predictions dilemma. And it goes a bit like this. See, predictions, if you play it too safe, the level of interest is low. And if you try to go too crazy, it goes a bit too crazy. So you have this chart where along the y-axis, you have level of interest, and then the uniqueness of viewpoint along the x-axis. And so level of interest goes from say what all the way to boring. And then the uniqueness is like, first off, you're just extrapolating current trends. And on the far end, it's more outrageous than Lady Gaga wearing a dress made of meat to the MTV Music Awards, if you remember when that happened. And this is kind of like what the chart goes up. So it starts boring, it's in the bottom left, and it sort of goes up, and then it tapers, and then you sort of like start losing people again when you go too far. So the prediction needs to hit a certain sweet spot. It needs to be somewhere in between. You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention, and you did it, you crazy person, you did it. So I think if you hit it somewhere in between that, a unique viewpoint with a certain level of interest, that is what makes a good prediction. So having said that and setting you up for failure, what's your prediction, Eric?
Well, I had a couple of them. I think the one I'm going to choose to talk about right now, because I did it on song themes this year. Actually, it's the end of the world as we know it, but I feel fine. We're not going to take it anymore, right? Going back to the 80s here, and hack me and I'll hack you back. The hacking back one is the one that I think we're going to see more of. And to me, it's actually kind of fascinating. We've actually seen the US government now saying, hey, we're doing this. And I wrote this before that, by the way. But I think where, we're seeing where these attackers come in, they hit somebody, we're watching the money in these Bitcoin wallets. You can see it, where it's at. And yet, that's got to be frustrating for somebody that's a business owner. But we're starting to get to where it's like, okay, maybe now we go back after that Bitcoin wallet. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if legalities shift a little bit when it comes to this. I mean, it's a slippery slope when it's like, well, they called me a name or they sent me a phishing email or something that I suspect was a phishing email. So I'm going to go after their organization. There is a slippery slope there that we have to be cautious about. But in the same breath, we can't just stand by and watch these folks take everything and do nothing about it. So I think we're going to see more of that. We've seen the government say, yeah, we've done that. We've actually heard of, I think the FBI went back and got a bunch of money out of some of the, I think it was Dark Side or one of those groups. They got it out of their Bitcoin wallets. And I think we're going to see that getting more and more common. And I got to wonder, is there going to be a new position, Chief Hacking Back Officer? I think that would be kind of cool, right? So all these pen testers are going to get a real job as a chief something. We need more security with chief titles.
We do.
What do you think?
We do. I think you're absolutely right. And actually, my predictions tied in, not quite to that, but the two areas I focus on in my predictions was one was cryptocurrencies. In terms of like attacks against cryptocurrencies, against the exchanges, against individuals with their wallets. We've even seen like people that have had MFA enabled, and even that's been been breached. And tied closely to that, I think regulators have been taking it easy for the last couple of years because of the pandemic, and they didn't want to put undue pressure. But I think now in the future, where a lot of organizations said you can work from home, or there's a mixed environment, and there's all this cryptocurrency type activity going on, I think they're going to start coming out with new regulations or amendments to their regulations to say, okay, you can protect data, but now you've got half your workforce always at home, rotating. So, how are you going to protect the data? No, you're not going to have any data on your mobile device, your laptop, or anything. And so I think that's kind of like an area where I think things are heading. So let's bring the team back in. There's our handsome Jelle. There's our capable Roger. There is Anna having drinks. She's probably just listening to us. She's probably got a beer in hand. And there is James. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Anna, but I did.
Oh, but you're muted, so that's okay. We can't hear you slurring.
Yeah,
that's all
that's
right.
all good.
So, hey, what do y'all think? Do you disagree with anything Javvad and I just said?
No.
Okay.
What did you say? Can you repeat it? No.
Oh, for the love of all that's good.
No.
Yeah, no. I'm just looking for some discourse here. Come on, man. We got to argue about something, right? It's far too easy if we don't.
Anna's saying she can't hear us. Audio's a bit of a issue.
And actually, the general thing, I've been doing this 34 years, been looking at these trends and predictions. What I would say is that all things internet or attackers, the things you predict oftentimes take a lot longer to happen, but then when they do, they happen a lot quicker, right? Like ransomware and Bitcoin could have been happening in 2009 when Bitcoin came out, but it really didn't take off to 2012, 2015. So that's what I would say is the trends are that sometimes they take forever, but then all of a sudden, oh my God, in 3 months, we have this huge problem we're fighting.
Do you remember back when you could buy like Domino's pizzas with Bitcoins? It was like a couple of Bitcoins for a pizza.
Yes.
Dear Lord.
Yes. The most expensive pizza ever bought.
Right, right.
Anna's got everyone waving. We have no idea who they are or what they're saying. For all we know, they're kidnappers that have taken Anna, and she's like signaling for help, and we don't understand what she's saying.
And because she's sitting at an outdoor beer pub and what appears to be nice weather, everybody wants to be with Anna. And not with us. So.
I don't want to be here with me. I mean, that's not unusual, but it's not beer 30 time yet here. All right. Well, I got to say this has been great, and we do appreciate everyone coming on and sharing this. These.
Eric gets very emotional towards the end, so we're going to wrap things up a bit quicker. So thank you everyone for joining us. It has been great. We have to play this. It's raining because that's a far more enjoyable version of Eric. Roger, thank you very much for your time. I know you're very busy for sharing your expertise with us. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
And James, thank you very much for joining us. Good. And Anna, you can't even hear us, so I'm just going to say goodbye. And Jelle, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you, good sir, and hopefully we will catch up soon.
Same here. Bye.
And take care, everyone. We will see you again. Hold on, let me just bring back Eric. Eric, do you have any final words?
No,